Good evening, and welcome to the big British immigration debate. Tonight, we're tackling one of the most contested and emotional issues in British politics: immigration. To set the context, Britain's history is one of movement and change. In the early 20th century, Jewish refugees fled persecution in Europe and found safety here. After the Second World War, thousands came from the Caribbean, South Asia, and Africa to help rebuild Britain, driving buses, staffing hospitals, and working in factories. Immigration has brought undeniable benefits. It fuels the NHS, supports the economy, and enriches our culture. But concerns have always followed, from competition for housing to pressure on schools and anxieties over national identity. Today, the scale has grown. Net migration, the difference between those arriving and those leaving, reached around 745,000 in 2022, a record high. Supporters say this reflects a global economy and Britain's need for workers. Critics say it's proof of a system that's lost control. And immigration is not just about numbers. It's about values, fairness, and trust. With me tonight to debate it are Edward Harrington, a former contractor from Birmingham who believes immigration has gone too far, and Sid Khan, a community organiser and researcher in London who argues that immigration is vital for Britain's future. Let's begin. Edward Harrington, you first. Why do you believe immigration is such a pressing problem?
The truth is simple: immigration is out of control. Net migration at nearly 750,000 in a single year, that's the size of Birmingham arriving in 12 months. No one voted for that. Ordinary people pay the price, waiting weeks for a GP, fighting for council houses, seeing schools packed out. It's not about hating anyone. It's about survival of our services and the preservation of British culture. People are sick of being told they're racist just for saying what everyone can see.
Thank you. Sid Khan, your opening statement.
David, Eddie is right about the numbers. Net migration was very high last year, but let's not stop at the headline. Around 45% of those arrivals were students, many here temporarily. Tens of thousands were health and social care workers, filling critical shortages. Without immigration, the NHS would collapse. Nearly 1 in 6 NHS staff is from overseas, and almost half of hospital doctors trained abroad. Economically, migrants contribute around $25 billion in taxes every year, more than they take out. Immigration is not a burden. It's keeping the country running. The real problem is a failure to invest in housing and services to keep pace. That's a political failure, not a migrant one.
Let's start with the big question. Is the debate on immigration racist?
No, it's not racist to want to control borders. My granddad worked with Irish migrants in factories, no one batted an eye. The difference today is scale and culture. Entire towns change overnight. You go down the high street and you hear more foreign languages than English. That's not racism, that's reality.
Edward, wanting border control isn't racist, but the debate often drifts into generalizations that are. When people link immigration to crime without evidence, or blame whole communities for the actions of a few, that's prejudice. The fact is, Home Office statistics show no overall link between immigration and crime. Migrants are actually less likely to commit crimes than UK-born citizens. We should debate policy, not spread fear.
Tell that to people in Rotherham or in towns where grooming gangs operated. Authorities looked the other way for years. Why? Because they were scared of being called racist. That's not fearmongering, that's the truth.
Those crimes were appalling, and the failures by police were unacceptable. But grooming is not unique to one ethnic group. It happens in all communities. We can't use the actions of criminals to smear whole populations.
So one side sees silenced truths, the other sees dangerous generalizations. Let's move on to the numbers. Edward, you've pointed to net migration figures of over 700,000. Sid, you've mentioned NHS contributions. Let's get to the heart of it. How do these numbers shape the country?
David, let me spell it out. Net migration in the hundreds of thousands every year, it's unsustainable. We build around 200,000 houses a year, but the population grows by far more. No wonder young people can't get on the housing ladder. And on services, schools are bursting. Some areas have over 30% of pupils with English as a second language. How do teachers cope? It's chaos.
Let's be accurate. Yes, net migration is high, but the Office for Budget Responsibility says immigration helps reduce the national debt because migrants are younger, working, and paying taxes. On housing, the crisis started long before recent migration spikes. Britain built far fewer homes in the 1980s and 1990s than needed. That's policy failure, not just immigration. And on schools, Soshin Ponsoshiluas, Studies show children with English as a second language often outperform their peers by GCSE. It's not about dragging standards down, it's about how we manage change.
That's clever talk, but it's not what people see. You ask a mum in Birmingham waiting for a school place, she's not thinking about debt ratios, she's thinking about her kid missing out.
So we have two truths, one rooted in the statistics, the other in lived experience. Let's turn to the Channel crossings. Small boats crossing the Channel have dominated headlines. Over 45,000 migrants crossed in 2022. Eddie, your view?
It's a shambles. Criminal gangs ferry people across, and Britain just rolls over. Most of them come from France, a safe country. They're not refugees, they're economic migrants. And ordinary people see this and think, why can't Britain defend its borders?
Let's be clear. The numbers, while highly visible, are still a fraction of total migration. Many are genuine asylum seekers, fleeing war in Afghanistan, Syria, Sudan. But because safe routes are so limited, they risk their lives on dangerous crossings. The answer isn't demonizing them, it's creating safe and legal routes, speeding up asylum claims, and smashing the smuggling gangs. Right now, half of asylum claims are granted, which shows many of these people are genuine refugees.
If they're genuine, they should claim asylum in France. It's safe there. Britain can't be the world's rescue boat.
But historically, Britain has taken pride in offering refuge, from Jewish families in the 1930s to Ugandan Asians in the 1970s. We can manage asylum if we do it fairly.
Finally, movements like Reform UK and figures such as Tommy Robinson have gained traction. Edward, why do you think that is?
Because they say what others won't. You might not like Robinson, but he talks about grooming gangs when politicians wouldn't. Reform UK speaks for working people who feel left behind. They may be blunt, but they're honest.
They're not honest, they're opportunists. Robinson thrives on division, setting neighbour against neighbour. Reform UK blames migrants for everything, but never explains how cutting immigration fixes underfunded hospitals or low wages. They sell anger, not solutions.
Tonight, we've heard two powerful, clashing perspectives. From Edward Harrington, a warning that immigration has reached unsustainable levels, overwhelming housing, schools, and services, eroding cultural cohesion, and leaving communities voiceless. From Sid Khan, a defense of immigration is essential, sustaining the NHS, boosting the economy, enriching our culture, and helping Britain compete globally. We've examined the raw numbers, net migration at record highs, NHS dependence on migrant workers, and the role of immigration in both pressures and solutions. We've confronted the painful subjects, grooming gangs, channel crossings, and whether debates themselves are racist. And we've touched on the rise of Reform UK and voices like Tommy Robinson, who claim to speak for the unheard. The truth is complicated. Immigration brings both challenges and opportunities. It tests our capacity to plan, invest, and adapt, but it also fuels our growth, diversity, and resilience. Ultimately, Britain's future will not be decided by slogans, but by how we strike the balance between compassion and control, openness and security, fairness and belonging. That balance has eluded us for decades. Perhaps it will define the decades to come. For now, from the Big British Immigration Debate, I'm Davis Dimbleby. Good night. If you enjoyed this debate, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next hour showdown.